Okay, so we have here the beginnings of a widget list editor, and we implemented one of the simpler use cases, which is being able to remove an existing widget. Everybody okay? All right, so let's take a look at being able to perhaps create a new widget, right, and add it to this list. All right, so let's take a look at that. What we could do is that at the top of the list component, right? Notice that we have a list of widgets right here, and what we could do is that we could use an li, right? So right above this first line item, we could add maybe at the top maybe an input box, right, where you can type in the title. Maybe we can select maybe the type of the widget that we want to create. Maybe add a button that we can click on to add this new widget. All right, so let's do that. Let's create a little form that we can configure what it is that we want to add. All right, so let's do that, and we'll add it right above this first widget. All right, so we'll make it look pretty, just like as part of this line item. All right, so we could do here right inside of the UL, or you might prefer to do it above the UL. It's your preference how you want to look at it. But I kind of am fond of the line item. So this is part of the list group item. And as part of this list group item, this very first one, we'll add a form element. Right? So this will be an input field, something like that. So in that first line item over here, we'll put an input field like this. Maybe you want to style it, perhaps. It could maybe take up the entire width of the page. So this would be a form control. Right? And then you can add maybe buttons. So let's add a button down below it. This could be a button. And it says add widget. And again, you can style that. This could be class button, and then maybe this could be button success. So success renders green, like the color of money. So that when you click on that particular button, what we'd like to do is notify somebody that, hey, there's a new widget that was created. Right? Again, it's not going to be our responsibility to do any of this. Right? We notify someone else whose responsibility is to maintain the state. We don't. Right? Okay, so let's do that. So let's. How do we notify? Well, it'll be similar to this button that we had here. We're going to have an on-click, right? And we can have a function that we can call. It says call maybe create widget. Create widget. That will be passed on to us as an argument. So we're going to notify somebody who's going to handle this. Right? So it will be similar to what we did earlier with the delete widget. Right? Whether we need to pass an argument or not, we'll see in a minute. Right? But let's plug it in. Let's plug it in. So let's see. So in the container, right, is where we do the mapping. This is where we do the mapping and say, well, that property called, what was it called? Create widget. It'll be mapped to some function, a dispatch function, and the type could be create widget. Okay, and that action will be sent over to the reducer. Right, the reducer is the one who receives this, right, and will handle it. It'll say case create widget, and then here it would need to return an object that contains the original array of widgets plus some new widget. Right? So it would need to create a new object whose widgets, right, contains an array that has the original widgets in the original array plus some new widget. Right? Now, typically you could do this with the old JavaScript. You could perhaps take the original state and then create a new object and then push it onto the old array. But as all new things, ES6 provides a new syntax to do something like this. So for instance, one of the syntax is take all the original content, in this case would be the state.widgets, right? This is called the spread operator. Right? Take all that was in there already, right? And just put it here at the beginning, right? And then at the end, put something new, right? And so this could be a brand new widget that has a brand new title. Oh, so a new widget with some ID. So let's do the ID could be some randomly generated number. Maybe it could be new date dot get time. So that's a unique identifier, right? The latest how many milliseconds since 1970 something. So that's the new one. So let's try it out. Okay, so if we add a widget, notice that it went up to 5, right? And there it is down below. There it is, new widget with our unique identifier at the bottom, right? Or if we want it at the top, right? We can put it at the top. That works too. So if we add a new widget, right? The new widgets are being added at the top. Notice that we have the unique identifiers as time passes forward. And we can't break the second law of thermodynamics. But what we really want to do is be able to pass a title, right, alongside with the widget, right? We don't want this hard-coded. So let's see how we could do that. So instead of this component just passing blindly create widget, we would need to, for instance, grab the title from this input field, right? We need to grab the title and perhaps pass it along the create widget so that we can create a widget object with a brand new title. Okay, so let's do that. So how do we do that? We need to somehow bind to this input field. Right? One of the easiest ways to bind to the input field is to declare a local variable, right, that we can then bind to the low-level node elements, right, and then grab the value of that DOM element. Right? So let's do that. Now to do that, we need to declare a local variable. Right? So now notice that we're using the syntax for this function where we only just have one div that we're returning. Yes? Okay. And if that's so, then we don't need curly brackets. We don't need anything, right? But because we need to now declare this variable, now we do need the curly brackets, right? And we need an actual return, right? So let's do that. Let's wrap this in a curly bracket, right? And put this div where it belongs. Right, so let's move this curly bracket to the end. Okay, and let's have this be a return right here. Okay, so we're back where we were. Right, so we're back where we started. Okay. So we're back where we are, right? So we can just add. Okay. But now I can declare things right before it. Right? I can say let widget title, declare a variable, a local variable, and then bind this input using a ref attribute. The ref attribute says I want to generate a reference, right, to the low-level DOM element. Right? I want to bind it to a local variable so that I can then grab its value. Right? So ref will be an expression that says takes the low-level node. It's a function, right? It reads the low-level. So this is a function node. Okay, calls a node, and then internally you can then bind it and say, well, I want to copy it in my local variable equal node. Now widget title is bound to the DOM element. I can then perhaps pass pass to create widget, I can pass now the value of the widget title. I can pass it the value. And then the widget title can then create a JSON object with a widget title. Yes? All right, that's the intent. Now this syntax, because we only have one argument, the parentheses is optional. And because we have a single line executing here, the curly brackets is optional. Everybody okay? All right, so what do we do? The create widget, right now it's blindly calling the function. Instead, right, it needs to pass, it needs to pass an argument. It needs to pass an argument. For instance, it could pass just a widget title. You could just pass a widget title. You could do that. Or it could be a little more sophisticated. Perhaps it could actually create the widget object. Well, I could create the widget object right here. We could say let widget, and then some JSON object that says the title is the widget widget title dot value, and the ID could be, what we were doing earlier, right? New date dot get time. So we have a JSON object, and then we can pass the. Oh, am I missing something? Oh, yes. Because we have more than one line, we need the curly brackets, curly bracket, and curly bracket. There we go. So there's our JSON object with the title and the ID. And then we can pass the widget along. We can pass the widget along to the create widget. Yes? Right? And then our function, this one, is being passed by the container. Where's the container? There's our container. Now our create widget actually contains a widget object. See that? It actually contains a widget object. It's being passed from within the component. All right, the parentheses are optional. Okay, parentheses are optional. So now the second argument of our action could be the actual widget object. Right, so I'll call it W so that you make sure that they don't have to be called the same. They can be, but they don't have to. So I'm passing the widget. There it is. Now it's being passed to the reducer. The reducer can take that brand new object that is being passed along. So instead of doing this here, I can say action.widget, right? Because it has been created already for us. Okay. All right. Let's try it out. Let's see if this blows up. And so here is my new widget. I say add widget. Notice that it creates my new widget with a brand new title. Okay, and my other widget, add widget. Notice that maybe I want to clear this title, right? So I could, right here in the component, right, after I read the value, once I create the object, I could clear it out. I can say widget title.value. I could clear it out and say it's empty. Right, just empty it out. Right, so I can type something new. So widget ABC, and then it clears out, so I can type something else. Widget 321, right, and that can be deleted just as before. Everybody okay? All right, awesome. Okay. How about now being able to perhaps select the type of the widget, right? So that it could be a heading widget or a list widget. It could be different types of widgets. Right? So let's take a look at that, how we would do that.